I never really know what I'm walking into with these interviews. Most of the time, it's a blind reach out. Strangers from the internet, message boards, or word of mouth. But here's what's wild. Not once have I ever been disappointed. So recently, I got the chance to meet Josh Leonard, one half of the brother duo behind the Pursuit of Infinity podcast. They explore all kinds of topics that stretch beyond the usual, like aliens, spirituality, mind-altering substances, the nature of reality. I came in curious, wanting to learn more about magic mushrooms, and I'll admit, half expecting to meet someone who fit the classic psychedelic stereotype. Laid back, maybe decked out in tie-dye, all love and light and vibes and all that good stuff. Instead, I met Josh, thoughtful, intentional, and deeply respectful of the work. Josh doesn't just explore psychedelics, he studies them, approaches them with purpose, and shares a philosophy rooted in understanding and growth. In this conversation, Josh gave me a tour of the psychedelic landscape, shared his personal journey, and opened the door to why Pursuit of Infinity is a podcast worth your time. So settle in. This is a journey you'll want to take in. How did you get the idea for Pursuit of Infinity? When did the idea first come about?
Well, it came about in, I'd say like 2022, around that time. That we had the lockdowns with the pandemic and all that. A lot of people were starting podcasts, and, me and my brother, we always have these really deep conversations around, psychedelics and philosophy and religion and all kinds of stuff. And, one day I reached out to him and I was like, dude, why don't we just start a podcast? Like we do this all the time. Why not just put microphones in front of our faces and kind of make it official and format it and release it? And maybe some people will like it. And so we started it off. My brother actually came up with the name Pursuit of Infinity, kind of a play off of like the Pursuit of Happiness, we had lists and lists and lists of names, and we just kept trying to come up with something that really matched the theme. And, whenever we came up with something good, I would look it up and there was already a podcast with the same name, which, there's like a million podcasts out there. So it's hard to find one that doesn't have the name that you want, but finally my brother, he threw out Pursuit of Infinity, and I was like, yo, that's a good name. I like that. Looked it up. Nobody had it. And it just, went on from there,
I love that. So you podcast with your brother. Like, what's the best part about podcasting with your bro?
Well, number one, it's given us an opportunity to become closer than ever. We've always been close, me and my brother, but when you force yourselves to sit down in front of a microphone and talk for an hour a week or so, it really helps to solidify your bond, and even if you do it with friends or with people that even people that you don't know, as interviewing people and stuff, like you just form these connections with people. And it's just been so amazing to be able to do that. And especially with my brother, we're so much alike. We have a lot of the same types of experiences, and, growing up together gives us a specific sort of like flow and relationship that can be sensed by the listener in, I think, a way that it wouldn't be if we were just friends.
I get that. Yeah. So are there any challenges that you have, podcasting with your brother?
Not specifically with him. We get along so well, and our conversations always flow really well. We stay away from topics that would make us clash. We generally stay away from politics, because even if you do have like some of the same political views, oftentimes it just ends with a clash. Politics, it's a really touchy subject. And although I do love talking politics with friends and family and such, it's not something I ever want to go into in the podcast, for a few reasons. Like, one, I don't want people to know my political views, because then they kind of prejudge you before even listening to your podcast. There's much more important things I feel like we had to talk about. And the problems really with podcasting, or I should say like the difficulties, come with post-production, the work that people don't see, all the behind the scenes stuff. making sure the audio is good and the video, and then editing all of it, putting it all together. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot more effort than people really think. But also with those difficulties, it's fun, it's rewarding, and it's just like a really cool thing to be able to do. We have this technology in front of us that allows us the ability to get our thoughts out there, and to me, it's a really rewarding thing.
So do you guys have any like pre-show rituals or anything that you do? Any quirky habits, before hitting that record button?
That's a great question, man. We used to do in-person recordings where I would go up to his house and we would just talk in person. Since we actually been doing more video, we do remote now so that we can each have a camera, because it's difficult when you're together if you don't have like a set to like get the video down right. But when we were doing it in person, we would always do like a breathwork routine before the episode. I'm not sure if you're familiar with breathwork, but breathwork is essentially like breathing exercises that you do in order to achieve a particular goal. And the exercise that we would do, it would be a very relaxing type of like release your energy type of breath work. And it would always chill us out and get us in a really good state to have a open and free conversation.
Oh man. You know what? Before I start these things, I think I'm going to start doing a little breath work myself. You got any tips?
It helps.
You got any tips? Is it more of an exhale than you inhale? Is that good to start there, or is it short breaths, short choppy breaths, or long deep breaths?
So there are certain types of like breathwork exercises. Like some require you to breathe certain ways. Like there's one that I used to do that like you breathe in twice. Like you breathe in like a half breath and then a full breath, and then you hold it and then let it out. That's a good one. But what I suggest for people to do when they first start out is, if you want to just like kind of change your state, just do 10 really deep, slow, like long breaths, and you'll feel like a difference. But then there's other types where it's like you can like hold your breath as well. Like you breathe in and hold your breath for like a minute and then breathe out. There's a lot of YouTube videos where if you just type in like breathwork routine or something like that, there's this guy with a mustache, I forget his name, on YouTube, that does like some really good ones, some 10-15 minute breathworks, and they're great, man. You can look it up and find whichever one you feel like kind of suits your needs. But I always suggest people just do 10 long, slow, deep breaths to start.
Nice. I'm definitely going to give it a try. I'm going to search YouTube for the mustache guy. I'll let you know when I find him.
I'll send you some links.
Please, I could use it. So you do a podcast with your brother. I would like assume that like a family is involved, pretty much, either cheering you guys on. Is there any like subject that you guys have broached that, maybe elicited a reaction that you didn't expect from a family member?
Well, strangely enough, our family is really supportive of like our psychedelic work. So there's not been really anything that we've talked about where family has given us a problem or given us an issue. We don't really. So for me, my philosophy is like, I don't need my family or my friends to listen, because they're not necessarily my target audience. A lot of my friends may not be into psychedelics or some of the things we talk about. So it's okay with me if, they don't listen or whatever. But the friends that do know about it, the family that do know about it, they do support, they subscribe and all that stuff.
Did you find any unexpected supporters from your friends or family?
Not as of yet. Not yet. What I'm waiting for, like one of the fun little experiments I'm doing is like, I'm not telling a lot of people that I'm close with, like a lot of friends and stuff. And like, I want them to organically find it and then come to me and be like, hey, you got a podcast? I had no idea. I just kind of stumbled upon it, and kind of waiting for that to happen as a little experiment, which would be fun.
Okay. So when we were talking earlier, you said that you like to talk about psychedelics. And it's beautiful that we are having this meetup right now, because it's something that I've been interested in for, I'm going to say at least the last 10 years. I haven't done any psychedelics or anything like that. But just tell me about the psychedelics. Like if you're trying to get into it, any tips, how should I start? Or
Yeah. Well, what I always say to anybody who wants to get into psychedelics is do significant amount of research first. Get yourself versed in sort of what to expect, because in the same token, no matter how much research you do, you're never going to be ready for the experience itself, because it's just so far out of our realm of reality that there's no words that can really get you truly ready to understand it. But you should form a foundational education for yourself about how to do it, what to expect, the mindset going in. And one of the common misconceptions people have is that like they feel like people who do psychedelics just do them all the time. And I mean, some people do, but in my view, the best way to do it is just a few times a year, really. It's not like other drugs. It's lumped into the category of drugs. People call it a drug, but in my view, it's not a drug, because you ingest a drug to get high. Sure, you get quote unquote high with a psychedelic, but the reason you ingest it is very different, at least if you're doing it correctly. I mean, obviously these things can be abused like anything. I mean, you can have too many cheeseburgers, you know what I mean? You can abuse anything in life. But the proper way, in my view, to do psychedelics is as like a spiritual sacrament, because what people don't usually get if they do it the wrong way is the spiritual aspect of it. Because you can go to a party and you can take a few grams here and there, and you can see colors and you can see shapes, and the walls will start to breathe, and you might feel really close to your friends and you have a great time. And that's fantastic. That's awesome. But when you start to increase the dose, and when you start to have a more grounded, responsible intention when you go into the experience, what you can potentially get out of it is so profoundly life-changing. I mean, for me, it changed my entire life from top to bottom. I used to be just a staunch atheist, and I used to be very nihilistic. I thought that the universe and the world had no purpose, and life was beating me down and beat this lesson into me that you're not good enough, like you're nothing. Money is everything. And if you didn't have a good job and a great career, then you were worthless to our society, and that depresses people. A lot of times people, they have this view of themselves that is like their self-worth and their value is based off of the things that they have, how much money they have, how much stuff they have, the car they drive, and what psychedelics can teach you is that they can realign your priorities, to help you to realign your value systems, because the main experience that at least I aim for is what people call the mystical experience. Have you ever heard of this before?
I have not.
The mystical experience is essentially what like theologians would describe as like a meeting with God. So if you go in to the experience with the correct intention, you take the correct dose, and your atmosphere is correct. There are basically three main aspects: setting, and mind. I always add that third one, mind. People usually say set and setting, but set a lot of times has to do with your mindset. But set and setting are the two main important things, and then also dose as well. Dose is so important. People don't talk about dose a lot, but dose is one of the most important things. It's very dependent on like what your experience is going to be like. So the set, what that refers to is like your mindset, what you bring to the experience, your intention in the experience, where you're at, even your mood, the day you had even, set and your mindset can be affected by, your past, and it could be affected by your, the last 10 seconds of your life, So it's very important to really hone that in and have the correct mindset going in. And then setting is also so important, because you don't want to be taking a psychedelic if you want to have a spiritual experience where you meet God or something, or change your life in some sort of way, you don't necessarily want to have that experience with people you don't trust, or at a party, or or like in your car or something. You want to be safe, generally at home or in the presence of a practitioner, someone who knows what they're doing, who knows how to guide the experience. And if you have those ingredients and you do that correctly, then you have the highest chance of having a positive, life-changing mystical experience.
Wonderfully, responsibly explained for everybody out there that's going to be watching this. When we were talking about mindset, you also mentioned it in another word. You said intention. Right? So I guess obviously dosage is a main part, but in setting, of course, these are the three pinnacles to have a pretty good, I don't know, are we calling this an experience? Are we calling this a trip? What's the type of lingo?
Either way,
doesn't matter.
I tend to call it an experience, but a trip, a journey is they're also great ways to describe it.
So intention, like if I'm coming into this, is my intention to add? Could it be to add something to my life or to take away something from my life? Is this basically what we're using? We're not calling drugs.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be an intention. Intentions can be specific, where, it could be as specific as like, I want to stop drinking alcohol. I want to fix a relationship with my, aunt or uncle or, whoever it may be. But it also can be as broad as, I just want to experience the capabilities of my mind, or I want to go into and feel my heart. I want to increase my self-confidence. I want to explore the cosmos and see what's possible. There's so many different intentions, but the key behind finding yourself a positive intention is that it is positive. The intention shouldn't be, I want to manipulate my girlfriend more, or I want to be able to be more powerful and take over the group in my job or something. Generally, for me, I find that more of a peaceful, loving intention is going to give you a good experience.
And what are we? Are we just saying? Are we calling this? Are we taking mushrooms? Is it psilocybin? Psilocybin.
Yeah, great question.
Right?
Great question.
Like we're respond. Like how can we? What are we respectfully calling this substance that we're taking? Because obviously, like drugs is not. It's not the best term for it.
Yeah, for sure. So psilocybin is the active compound in what we call magic mushrooms, culturally. And, I call it the mushroom or psilocybin. Those are generally just what I call it. Mushroom is cool because it is from the earth, because you can, if a lot of these academics and like the research programs will give you like straight psilocybin, and it's not derivative of the mushroom. They just create it in a lab. So there is that. But I like to just use mushrooms. Generally, it's my favorite one. There's also DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which is another one that's been pretty popular as of late. Ayahuasca, LSD is another one that's, these are all in the tryptamine category. They're all fairly safe as well.
Are they all coming from mushrooms?
They're not coming. Only psilocybin comes from mushrooms. LSD is lab created, but originally came from a fungus. So it's not mushrooms, but it's a fungus, like a type of fungus called ergot. That was like the original derivative of LSD. DMT comes from a lot of places. It comes generally from the bark of the mimosa tree or the acacia tree. These are like exotic trees that within their bark, DMT can be extracted. And DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca as well. But it becomes orally active when you brew it with a certain plant, which is how you can drink it.
So ayahuasca is DMT is just prepared differently.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. I think, and that's another thing, because I mean, in American culture, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream to talk about these things. You know, we had Joe Rogan on like every other show. He's talking about DMT or ayahuasca or something like that. So
yeah, Joe Rogan has done the psychedelic community a great service in bringing on people to spread the word.
Right. I think you should go on Joe Rogan.
I
think you would be a great guest on Joe Rogan. Joe, if you're out there, like Joe's listening to me. Joe, if you're out there, have Josh on your show.
Let's go.
Right? All right. So your show is titled The Pursuit of Infinity. What does infinity mean to you at this point in your journey?
Great question, man. Infinity, to me, it signifies the ultimate mystery. The pursuit of infinity is the everlasting questioning and discovery and exploration of the mystery. And, you know, what psychedelics have taught me, the high dose, you know, really profound experiences, they taught me that the inner spiritual dimension is where you find, you know, the breadcrumbs of the mystery, not just inside, but outside as well. You know, there's an equal mystery in space and in the physical world. But, you know, in our culture, we're not really taught to value the non-physical, you know, what exists inside of us. The real question of who am I, to me, is the one that really resonates with the path of discovering the mystery. So yeah, that's pretty much what infinity means to me.
You often explore psychedelics as, I guess, like a lens to understanding big questions, right? Have you ever, or have your own experiences with psychedelics, like has that given you any profound epiphanies or even challenges that shifted the way that you think about consciousness or spirituality, anything like that?
Very, very much. As I had mentioned a little earlier, I used to be an atheist, complete atheist, you know, didn't believe in anything. No God. I always thought religion was a fairy tale. And, you know, I was very like nihilistic, you know, about that. But with exploring psychedelics, I was able to actually feel God and experience God. And it wasn't what I thought it was. You know, it's not some guy in the sky that, you know, looks down on you and judges you for every move you make. So that part of my judgment of religion, I still kind of stand by. But I appreciate religion for what it teaches, because I don't think that it's meant to be taken literally. I think that it's more metaphorical. If you look into Jordan Peterson and his work around describing the Bible, I think it's a more productive way to look at it, as opposed to just like hating on it, because I don't like that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I don't judge religions based off of a materialistic view anymore. So that is what really cascaded and changed everything for me, is understanding that there is something that exists beyond our physical beings, and it's guiding us, and it's in, through, and all around us. It is us. And when you feel that experience and it overtakes you as, you know, a feeling, you know, it's not something that you can see, touch, or explain, or even write. It is something that you must feel and experience. And when I did, it changed everything for me. It made me more empathetic. It made me nicer, kinder. It also changed my relationships dramatically. One story I can share is, so me and my now fiance, we were going through some really rough times some years ago. And, you know, we both had the same type of attitude about life, you know, very uninformed about the nature of reality, and just sort of going through the flow of the materialistic American world. And we were sort of drifting apart, and we decided to try mushrooms together to see if we could sort of solidify our bond and reignite our ability to communicate. And ever since that night that we took psychedelics together for the first time, and we've done it a few times together now at this point, everything changed for us. I mean, it gave us the tools to heal our relationship in ways that we never could have imagined, going down the path that we were going down, prior to these experiences. Our communication was re-solidified. And I think the most important, there are two facets of it that were the most important. One was being able to experience that mystical experience together. And also the realignment of our priorities. Because for each of us now, ever since that night, our number one priority above anything and anyone, no matter what it is, it does not matter what or who, our priorities, number one, are each other. And it's helped us to solidify. And as you mentioned, Joe Rogan, he talks about it as like, it's like you've got this desktop computer full of all these files. And what the psychedelic can help you do is to take all those files, put them in the correct folders, and align those folders in a way where you prioritize what's important first. And that is what we were able to do together as a couple. And it's what I've been able to do as an individual as well.
It's amazing. Like, I think it seems like, I would think that, like, internally, like, majority people, want to have that experience that you've had, the ability, like you said, to prioritize. I've had that experience before, but for me, it didn't stick. Like, I had that clarity, and even now, like, thinking about it, I'm reminded of it. Like, reminded of, where my destination, where I'm supposed to be traveling to. But then you get so caught up with everyday life and, distractions and everything. It seems like you can slip out of that. For your experience, was it something that, like you said, the communication was solidified, but was that feeling itself solidified, or is that something that you would have to, like, you get crowded out and every once in a while you got to go back in and do a little maintenance?
Definitely have to go back in and do a little maintenance. But when you have an experience like that sort of breaks you free of your paradigms, you can always look back on it and sort of reference it to get yourself back on the path. And it's been so valuable to be able to do that. And it just sort of lends itself to the profundity of the experience. But yes, I mean, the work begins after you have the experience. It's not as if you take, a pill and then you get better. It's like what these things help you to do is to recognize where you need to work, and then gives you the ability and the tools to get that work done.
All right. So if you don't mind, like, what is like a top priority for you? Like one of your top 3, top 5 priorities for you?
For me, my number one priority, as I had said, is my relationship with my fiance. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And honestly, the other priorities are my other relationships, my relationships with family, with my dog, taking care of him and doing what's right by him. And anything that involves, the podcast as well, that's become a priority too. But most things that involve love and fulfillment, I've learned to put fulfillment first, in terms of like emotional stability and things like that. And obviously it's like, my job is super important to me as well, being able to live and eat. But the psychedelics really changed the way that my priorities are in terms of like the way they're organized. Relationships and love come first to me in every aspect.
I have buttons that I hit. There's like children that sing like this. That's the wrong one. But usually on the show, oh man, that's loud. That's definitely a button I would hit for that right there. Love is a priority. It should be the number one.
Yeah.
Right. So getting back to like you've interviewed, I would say an amazing amount of people, probably had a lot of deep conversations. Like in these conversations, in these interviews, just throughout your life, have you noticed any common thread about the human experience?
Man, yeah. I mean, we're all so similar, and we're all so different at the same time. I've noticed that the human experience comes with paradox. Everywhere I look, I see paradox. People want to look at things as either black or white, red or blue, or this or that. But I feel like everything is both. We live in a duality that is ultimately a unity. I like to think of it as, two sides of a coin. You've got two different sides of the coin, but it still makes up one coin. And I think that theme and that philosophy runs through every single one of us. And the more we can appreciate, acknowledge, and work our way through those paradoxes, I think the easier we can navigate the issues of life. And I've noticed that people who are able to adopt that philosophy seem to dance through life as opposed to struggle through it.
I had an issue one time where I remember like just being just overwhelmed just with life, and I was living by myself. I had a sleepwalking episode, and I was living in Alexandria, Virginia, and I ended up in Richmond, Virginia, which is like 2 hours away. Yeah, wow. Insane. But on my journey, I had take my next door neighbors. I walked upstairs. I didn't know any of my neighbors, and I grabbed a mountain bike that was on the top of the steps, and I got on this mountain bike. And I start riding it, and the tire's flat. So I just put the kickstand down right where it is. It's probably February, unusually warm February in DC. I had on shorts and a James Brown tee, but it wasn't just regular James Brown. It was like a picture of his mugshot. Oh my God. Yeah, it was a mugshot type of night for me. Awesome. But I remember I started jogging because I was extra into fitness at that time, and I saw a couple. And I was talking to them, and I don't even want to go into like personally what I said, but they had issues, and I knew what their issues were. And I told them, I was like, you guys should just love each other. Then I ran off. I ended up on the train 2 hours away. And I promise you, I had, there's a beer, the beer called Grolsch. It has like the little flip top on it or whatever. I had one of those. I didn't smoke anything. Yeah, I didn't smoke. I didn't even have a cigarette or anything. It was just a beer, tired, sleep, and and I ended up 2 hours away.
Wow! And so you traveled that distance in your sleep?
I was sleepwalking. When I came to, I was on not an Amtrak train. I was on a regular Connex type of train, like sitting outside, like hobo style. And I was like, I remember, like, I was like, oh, I'm cold. I woke up and I was just like, it's like probably like 2:00 in the morning. I'm going through towns, looking at cars stopped, waiting for the train to go by, wondering if they saw me. And then I was like, the next time this train slows down or I get anywhere like near a station or another area again, I'm going to hop off of it. And luckily I went through, it was going through, I guess, the Richmond train station. And I hopped off, kind of did a roll off of that. And then I just went in and asked for help. Like, I did not know where I was. It was scary. And yeah. And then 2 times after that, I sleptwalked. One time, I don't know. I think I just woke up. One time I cooked a whole ass lasagna from scratch. I'm talking about, I made the noodles and I ran them through the noodle maker and everything like that. I cooked a whole lasagna. I got a picture on my Instagram.
When you were like analyzing that couple, when you felt like you knew what their issues were, like what was that like? Were you like feeling their energy or something?
That's a good question. It was more of it was like a body language thing. I don't want to say that I was inside their head and I could hear their voices or anything like that, but just how they were reacting with each other and acting towards each other. I knew that they loved each other, but there was an issue between there was an issue between them getting to be together.
I feel like that's an issue a lot of couples have where, like they love each other, but they've just got these like egos in the way that like just prevent them from breaking through. And like you said, just loving each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Love is the best. I'm married. It's all egos all the time. But you gotta, I don't know, I compromise, and sometimes I shut up and I stop talking. Sometimes I just walk out the room and yell, and then sometimes it's beautiful. That French toast is good because I made it. No,
absolutely, yes.
So it's good and bad. I've been in a couple of years. It was rocky at first, but we're getting better. But maybe if I can convince the old lady to,
hey man, it might work.
Have our be in our right place and our right mindset with our right dosage. Maybe we can, take this to a higher level.
Absolutely. And, you can even, you can seek out a guide, even online, that it's something that I've actually trained in and I've been training in is, guiding people through experiences, and you can do it remotely. You don't have to be in person.
Yeah. Just pop an earplug in and pop your earbud in and walk through it.
Yeah,
how many have you done?
You just do a Zoom meeting essentially. I've done it before.
Yeah. If she's up for it, I might have to circle back around.
Hit me up, man.
Sounds like a good idea. You see, and she's gonna be like, "Oh, he seems so responsible with it," because you are, and maybe she might do that. We'll see.
Yeah, safety and doing it responsibly is the most important thing by far.
All right. Now for the hokey ones. All right. If you could invite anyone as a guest on Pursuit of Infinity, who would it be and why?
It would probably be, if we're doing living, because if they're doing dead, then there's lots of cool people I could, bring back from the dead and bring on the show. But
give me one each.
Living.
One each.
One each. All right. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's funny. They're both brothers. One of them is passed and one of them isn't. So the first one, we'll do the dead one, is Terrence McKenna. He is the guy who really got me into this type of thing. He, just listening to his lectures. He was a lecturer, an explorer, a psychedelic bard. And, he would give these lectures that were just enthralling and really, piqued my interest in a way that no one ever has. And I still listen to his lectures all the time. Man, if he was alive, there would be a lot of him on Joe Rogan. I'll tell you that. And there'd be some amazing episodes. And then his brother, Dennis, is very much the same, very, very similar, but he is more of a scientist. And he's just one of the most eloquent and deep speakers on, psychedelics and the philosophy that comes with them. So Dennis, if you're out there, man, let's get it. Come on the show.
That's a good one. I have to look up the McKennas then, the McKenna brothers.
Yeah, the McKenna brothers.
Which burning question would you choose to resolve once and for all? Something like, what is consciousness, or what really happens after we die? Is there any mystery that you will just like to solve for once and for all?
Man, both of those, but really what is consciousness is the big one for me. Because, as you had asked, what do I feel like infinity is? I think that the answers lie within the question of consciousness. What is it? I also think the question of what happens after death is within the subject of consciousness as well. Because when we understand what consciousness is, if we can get an answer to whether or not consciousness still goes on after death, then I think we can have an idea of where to go to find more answers about what death is. I think it's all consciousness. I think all of reality is built on consciousness. I don't think that we live in a physical world, as weird as that might sound. I feel like we live in a world that's created by consciousness. The things we see, feel, touch, taste, hear, it's all a product of our consciousness. It just depends on what senses our consciousness is analyzing the information field through. You know what I mean? It's like you see things, but seeing originates in the eye. It's just information that's around us. It's light information that our eyes are taking in and then interpreting via consciousness as a projected reality. So I feel like if we understand consciousness, that's where the key to everything is. And again, as I had said earlier, the way to start answering that question for humans is asking who am I? What am I? And when you start to go down that path, it's like, oh, all right, now I'm starting to understand that, reality isn't just what we were told it is.
So deep. So, I mean, and it really, I don't think this conversation should be a deep conversation. I think this should just be like something, and I would probably expect that a kindergartner would understand this conversation that we're talking about right now. I think we kind of lose our energy as we age. That's just how I'm thinking about it.
That is a great insight, though, man. I got to say, I totally agree with you. I really do think that, like, when we're younger children, we're more ripe for this type of philosophy. And then as we grow older, reality just beats it out of us.
I think, yeah. I had a friend who said that, like when he was younger, that he could see people and he could see either two colors. He was like, they were either green or red. And green, they were a good person. Red was a bad person. But he said that he lost that. He doesn't even remember when he lost it, but he does remember that he had that. Have you had any guests who've had any of those type of experiences?
I've had people that have had psychic experiences and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I had one woman on who claimed that she was a psychic, like a channeler, and she could channel like dead people. Now, whether or not I believe that kind of thing, I don't know. It's tough. There's a quote that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I do think that requires a little more evidence than I was given. But it's still really interesting because the insights that she had were, very much aligned with a lot of the things that I've discovered through my, self-inquiry. So you never know.
Have you, during your self-inquiry, have you discovered anything about yourself? Something that you didn't expect to discover?
Yeah, I mean, probably the most amazing thing is that, I am the divine. I discovered that I am the divine, but not just me. You are too, and everybody is. Like, we all have this thing in us, this spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, that is connected with the ultimate reality of God, And that, I think, is the most transformative experience that a person can have, because like you realize that you're more than what you think you are. You're not your thoughts. You're not the issues that you think you have. You're not what your parents told you were, whether that be good or bad. You are your own sovereign individual who is connected directly to source. And I think that's the most amazing thing anyone can discover about themselves.
That's amazing. Josh, you have anything that you would like to say? Any messages you want to put out to the universe?
Just love everyone, man. That's what it's all about. And it's all about paradox and appreciating the opposite for who they are and what they are. The people that give you the hardest time in life, whether they be people close to you or people that are external that you think are wrong in the world, whether it be politically or spiritually or whatever, those are the people who show you the work that you have to do inside. Because until you can love and appreciate everyone, your work is not over.
I agree with that. I got a lot of work to do.
We all do, man.
But I think the first thing is wanting to actually get to a point. So this is an amazing interview. You are great. You are great at what you do.
Dude, thank you, man.
Like, personally, that's what I was going to ask. Like, for me, like Pursuit of Infinity, you got a lot of episodes here. Are there any specific episodes like that you would choose for people just starting to get into your podcast?
Probably the latest, because I feel like we just have been getting better and better at it throughout the years. Some of the older stuff is pretty rough, rough around the edges. And the more we do it, the better I think it gets. Some of the best guests, that I could suggest, anything I've done with Hamilton Souther has been amazing. That guy, he's actually my teacher. He's a shaman in Peru. And he has some of the most amazing insights. And I think people would really enjoy listening to him. And, just anything with me and my brother is always cool. It's usually a lot more chill. And we, just kind of have a back and forth. But yeah, I'd say if I were to introduce anybody, I would say the episodes with Hamilton South there are awesome.
Amazing. That's where, I'm going to start. Well, I'm going to start with Jake Barber and the Fabric of Being, right? Is that the last one?
So that's not to misinterpret that wasn't with Jake Barber. That was me and my brother talking about Jake Barber.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Like, I have to rewatch this back just so I can ask more questions. Because even though you gave me, props for asking you a couple of good ones, I'm pretty sure, like, when I go back and, like, just digest all of this, that I'm going to have more questions. So I have to ask you, would you please give me a rematch clause for this interview? Can I reach out to you again and give you updates? We
can do a rubber match too if you want. As many times as you want to have me on, I'll be happy to come on, dude. You've been amazing, very understanding and inquisitive, and I can tell you have a curious mind, and it's been fantastic, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate
questions and everything. Yeah, of course.
And there you have it, a conversation that went beyond surface level curiosity. Josh Leonard brought insight, depth, and a fresh perspective on psychedelics, spirituality, and the quest for meaning. If today's talk piqued your interest, I highly recommend checking out Josh and Joe on the Pursuit of Infinity podcast. They're asking the big questions, exploring the edges of human experience, and doing it with care and respect. So whether you're a seasoned psychonaut or just starting to peek beyond the veil, there's something waiting for you there. Thanks for tuning in, and stick around, because we're just getting warmed up.
They